Flowmaster's Force 2 single-side exit exhaust is a great subtle update for your 2015 to 2020 3.5 EcoBoost powered F-150 if you want an exhaust that's really just for you. This system errs more on the subtle side, offering you a nicely balanced exhaust note that gives your truck a bit more attitude with a smooth baritone rumble, making it a great choice for a daily driven truck. Now accordingly, we're going to give this one a solid 3 out of 5 on our loudness meter. It's more than enough for you to enjoy it, but not enough that it's going to have your neighbors shaking their fists as you drive by. Now quick note on fitment here, this is designed to fit 2015 to 2020 3.5 liter EcoBoost powered F-150s, excluding Raptor, and 2019 to 2020 limited models. Many people think of Flowmaster as being one of the loud exhaust companies, but they've got a lot more than just noise to contribute, especially with this system. This one is going to give the 3.5 EcoBoost a sound they probably should have had rolling right off the factory floor. It's a smooth, bassy rumble, but it's not loud. And while you'll never mistake this engine for a V8, the Force 2 gives the boosted 6 a little rasp and growl, and it just flat out sounds good. It's much more like what you get out of an older truck. You get enough sound to let you know what's thumping away under the hood, but it's not going to wreck your eardrums. Now, as always, more volume means more volume both inside and out. Inside the cabin though, this setup is perfectly pleasant. There is again just a bit more rumble versus stock, so listening to your favorite song or podcast, having a conversation, or taking the family on a long road trip will be no sweat. You'll get enough sound to satisfy, but even if you put in a ton of miles daily, this will give you that sound that you're missing without sacrificing your hearing or your sanity. And all that is thanks to the inclusion of this big 70 series muffler. Now this is a 3-chambered muffler, and there's a resonance chamber built in to help keep things a bit more subdued. This also allows for less restriction and better exhaust gas flow than your factory setup, which can result in more power and better response. And to finish everything off, you get a large 4-inch polished tip. Now this is a good size, and since it exits in the same location as your stock exhaust system, it's more subtle than some other options out there. Like the sound, it's understated and it doesn't draw too much attention to itself, but you still get the great sound and it will improve your truck's looks all at the same time. The piping here is all mandrel bent 409 grade stainless steel, providing you with some pretty good protection against rust and corrosion. The piping is 3 inches all the way back through the muffler out to the tip. The muffler is also made from 409 grade stainless steel, and as you can see, it's finished in this high temp black paint for some added rust and corrosion protection. The muffler again features that 3-chambered internal design with some technology from Flowmaster's own Delta Flow units. And that tip is a dual wall T304 stainless unit for some additional protection and a little pop of shine. Pricing comes in at about $1,000. Now that's not exactly pennies, but it is a good price for a 3-inch catback exhaust for these trucks. And it's made better by the good looks and the tolerable volume. So if you want good sound and a little bit more performance without having to sacrifice your hearing or spend a ton of money, this is a perfect setup for your truck. Installation gets a 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and the job should take you around 2 hours to complete. This is a bolt-on kit that comes with everything you need to get it installed, and it also utilizes all your factory exhaust hanger locations. So that means no permanent modifications are needed to your truck in order to get this fitted, and it's going to install basically just like your stock system. So with that, let's head on out to the shop and we'll walk you through the process step by step.
For this install, you're going to need an impact, a swivel socket, an 11mm, a 13, a 14, a 15mm socket, a ratchet, a 15, a 14, and a 13mm wrench. Today we're going to be installing an exhaust on our F-150, but before we get into that, let's watch a quick video on how to uninstall it.
So first things first, we got to get rid of our factory catback, and we're going to start by lubricating all of the hangers. And then there's 2 13mm bolts on this flange here that we're going to undo as well. That will allow us to push the whole exhaust back and drop it in one big piece. If you are working on the ground, you might have to loosen that clamp right there or bring out the saw to cut this into a couple pieces. But again, since we're on the lift, we're going to take it out in one big piece.
First, we're going to be installing the inlet pipe assembly, but before we do that, make sure to read the instructions to see which cab and bed configuration you have, because some models require you to cut the pipe. For our case, we don't need to do that, but that's just something you need to do before we get into this install. So to install it, we're going to need a 14mm socket and an impact, and a 14mm socket and a ratchet. Now, also something else to note, we're going to be using the supplied hardware that came in the kit. You will not use the old bolts. Now we can get our inlet pipe installed. For assistance, I'm going to be using a pull jack. I would recommend that you get an extra set of hands, or if you have access to a pull jack, it makes this install a lot easier. Now that we have this part of the exhaust situated, you're going to take your 2 bolts, you're going to put them through this hole and this hole, and you're going to need a 14mm socket with a swivel socket on an impact with a 14mm wrench. Now when you're tightening these down, you want to make sure that they're not too tight. You just want to make sure that they're snug enough so that the exhaust can hold itself up. Reason being, towards the end, we're going to be positioning the exhaust and adjusting it to make sure it's where we want it to be. Next, we're going to take our exhaust clamp / hanger and put it over the exhaust, like so. Next, we're going to be putting the muffler on the car, attaching it to this pipe. So I'm going to lower the pole jack. I'm going to put the pole jack under this while I'm securing it to here. Next, you're going to take an exhaust clamp and put it at the end of the exhaust. Make sure it's snug on there. Next, we're going to take our over axle pipe and connect it to the muffler. Once you have the over axle exhaust somewhat in the exhaust hanger holes, you're going to want to make sure you line it up with your muffler. We're going to want to push it in. Once you have that situated, you're going to take a 15mm socket and a ratchet, and we're going to snug down the exhaust clamp nut. Next, we're going to take our exhaust tip and put it on the end of the exhaust. You're going to need a 13mm wrench, a 13mm socket, and a ratchet. If you need to make any adjustments on where the exhaust tip placement is, you would do that now. Since ours is fine, we're going to go ahead and tighten down these exhaust clamps and the exhaust bolts on the end. Now once you have this tightened down, you can do the same for the rest of the nuts and bolts. Alrighty, that about wraps up this review and install of the Flowmaster Force 2 single exhaust system side exit for a 2015 to 2020 3.5 EcoBoost F-150, excluding the Raptor. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things F-150, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.